Hey there, it's Chris. Welcome back to the Yoshitaka Amano inspired kind of walking platform project, which is, well, this. Where, yeah, if you're new to this whole channel, just kind of tuning in for the first time, that's what we're attempting to make right now. And so far we've been doing a lot of blocking out. We finally started detailing out some of the platform details here. I kind of like this softer look we had going on. We started doing the tassels on the side. And addition of just a couple simple details like that is really kind of starting to bring this together, which I've been starting to realize in the last session too. It's getting really hard to video this doing it because unlike my clay models, this is the exact same color as the protective background stuff that I have here to kind of protect my tables and whatnot. So it's been a little bit of a challenge trying to keep this so it reads well on camera, but we're doing what we can. In any event, now that we started detailing, we're going to continue detailing out. I haven't finished carving all of these around the outside. I did kind of the one side in here, and that was it. And I'm going to hold off on doing that this session. Instead, this session is going to be all about adding onto this detail layer. We have the top, we have the tassels, and now we're going to add the knowledge. Because if you're familiar with Final Fantasy V and you're familiar with the character of Mid is a little bit of a scholar. He works with Sid. Sid's the head engineer. Mid is the scholar. He is the guy with all of the knowledge. So, as you can see, kind of sitting behind him on the side, we have a pile of books that kind of goes down here. And there are two cylinders you can see on the side. Come down here, kind of on the bottom there, two kind of cylinders that sit down here. I'm going to go and interpret those cylinders as scrolls. So, we're going to start adding some more layers of detail onto this. Now, that said, prior to coming on here, I've already done a little bit of legwork. So prior to coming on, I've already cut out a couple blanks I can use as the books, and I've cut out a number of blanks here that I can use on the cylinders. And funny thing about those guys, the cylinders came from this 1/4 inch dowel, which might look familiar to you if you've been watching this channel before. And those blocks of wood came out of this guy here, which this might look really familiar if you watched the Kai Shulin project, where as you can tell, that's the portion we took the rifle out of the end, and we carved this out of here. So this is why I keep these random parts. Instead, I took the other end and carved them out. But this is why we hold on to these random pieces. Like I said, that came from there, and the dowel itself was actually used for the scope on top. So we're reusing stuff from before. I saved these things because for model scale projects, saving little derpy things like that is a huge help and a huge thumbs up. That said, I didn't have anything. The books themselves are supposed to be about a 1/4 inch wide. I didn't have anything 1/4 inch. Those are more like 3/8. So we did the size and shape on these. I just need to kind of carve down the surface to get it down to about the thickness we need. That said, I also cut out about 8 books worth of stuff. I only need 6. And then there's one bigger one that's opened, you can see on the side there. This kind of has the pages flopped open, and we can stick that on top. So let me go get some of this stuff out of the way. We don't need any of this time, so this can just 100% go. And once we get ourselves kind of cleared out, get things out of the dust zone, we can kind of get to this. This should be a fun one. Now, I could have gone and just made a singular stack of the books on the side here, but it's just going to wind up being a whole lot easier doing each book separately and then just kind of attaching them to each other, either gluing them down, you can just like drill it out. Actually, it's going to be glued down. They're also going to be glued together in the end. And also, just to throw out, just for safety's sake, because if I'm using a Dremel on some of these things, yes, the sander bit's not going to matter. But if I want to use this guy, or even if I'm using my hand tools here to kind of get in, just to save the fingers, this isn't on here that's a whole different issue. It's going to be easy. It's going to be a lot safer. I can just clamp these things, and then I can kind of go from here if I need to. So my fingers don't actually have to be near what I'm doing kind of on any of this stuff. So That's it. Let me just trim off the edge of this real quick. I kind of cut the stuff, but I didn't really finish them off. So I just want to get the bad edges off of these things. I just want to start with the scrolls actually real quick, because they should be the fastest of the group. There's not super much, there's going to be a decent chunk of detail going into them, but I'll at least get 2 of them done, and we'll see how long it takes to do, in which case I'll determine whether I want to do the other 2 on camera or not. But they're essentially going to be broken down into 3 separate parts. We have a right, a left, and a middle. And now, if you remember, if you think of like an old kind of, if you look at like a cartoon kind of scroll, somebody holds it in, it's always like really condensed in the middle and kind of flares out towards the side. It's kind of cartoony in nature. That's not really how scrolls work, unless you're crinkling the thing. But let's just go ahead and find the middle. We're 1 1/4 inches, so 1/2 inch is 5/8. Kind of a nice number to know, because we're going to have 2 scrolls sticking out, but they also need to be attached to the thing. So we're going to have a band that kind of goes down the middle of them that attaches to. So we kind of want to find what roughly the middle is, so I can make just like a little bit of a band about that wide to kind of go in there. And the nice thing is, once we have one, we can take this and now just transfer that over to the next. That's going to be a band. And always use, if you have a pattern piece, you always use the same piece to make a pattern on everything. That is how pattern pieces work. Otherwise, if you keep going down the line, you're going to get little minute differences in them, and those minute differences over time are going to exacerbate themselves and just become worse and worse and worse. So if you have a pattern piece, keep using the same pattern piece. Never change it until the entire thing is done. I do that when making stringers on stairs at work. We do it when making rafters and stuff at work. Those are really the 2 big ones. But always keep that similar pattern. Okay, so now I'm just drawing the line all the way around this thing. As long as I get kind of roughly right, we're okay. I do want to get to the books at some point, because at the end of this video, like if you've ever seen my things, usually I get a feeling a lot of you kind of pop in the start and then pop in towards the end of this, just to kind of see where I start and where I go. And that's 100% fine. So the problem with that on this one is the scrolls are not going to be attached in the end of this. I don't want to attach them until both they are painted and the platform part is painted. And then it'll all go in together in the end, just because it's easier to get a paintbrush around things that way. So they aren't going to be attached. The books I can pile up there. So at least those, if you pop in later on towards the end of the session, I can have a visual on that part. So I want to get to the books sooner rather than later, but it's important to get these guys done too. And although you only see 2 of these scrolls on the one side, keep in mind there are 2 sides of this thing, and it's generally, I'm kind of treating it generally as symmetrical. So you know what, I'm just not even going to use this. This thing's getting so gunked up at this point, I didn't even think about things before I started. So let's just jump onto the smaller one. And my finger's going to be okay on here. It's far enough away, plus it's a sanding block here, that it's not going to make really much of a difference. Ooh, that is a vibrator on my finger there. And I'm just shrinking it a little bit so that strap gets a little bit of a 3D dimension to it. Okay, so we got a little bit on that side. Let's get a little bit on this side. Now you could do this thing in 3 separate parts, get smaller dowels for the ends, a slightly larger dowel for the middle, and kind of piece it all together. But then you're running into issues of trying to center things properly, and it's kind of more trouble, I think, than it's worth doing something like that. Okay, we have a little, I'm going to do second one of those things. We're going to, 1 second. I have the mask sitting on my lap. I shouldn't really need it for this. There's not really any heavy sanding going on in these. But I should have that mask on. Might be helpful. Alright, like I said, we're going to start with just 2 of these guys. And then we're going to go from there. I'm just trying to keep pressure and timing of this even as I go. So I'm trying to turn this thing as evenly as I can so everything gets done nicely. I am putting a little more pressure towards the inside part, towards that strap in the middle, a little less on the outside. And overall, hopefully, this effect kind of works. Okay, now I'm just going to put this blade on real quick just to kind of get this to read just a little bit more. Again, I'm steadying it with my thumb here so nothing goes anywhere. So my thumb's not in danger of getting hit with anything. That's actually what's steadying all this stuff while I do this. Okay, we have those. Let's just kind of... get some of this loosey stuff off, although trying to sand a spherical, or not spherical, a cylindrical object like this is not always the easiest, but we're going to get at least some of that stuff off, but we're most of the way there at this point. There's only so much. I can even come in a little bit close. Okay, well, that's as close as I can bring that camera down. I want my arms to kind of be on here to kind of give support for when I'm doing stuff. So I don't want to raise this up and lose my support. Because there with my forearms being on the ground is what's going to steady everything. Yeah, that's as low as that camera can go. So, alright, so we have that. We have... Now again, colors are going to help too when I do that. But we do have a band in the middle now, which is good. And now, let's see, what I want is if you have a scroll, around here, yes we are. is going to end somewhere. So let me go and face you this direction. Let's see if I have... No, because my fingers are covering it. So you're going to understand what I'm doing in just a moment. But I might as well do this on both so I don't need to keep changing these blades out all the time. Okay, so we have a line going down the middle. We want to bring our sander back again. Always using the sander. Let's see, it's probably going to be easier now without that on here. And we want to indent one of these two halves. Now the tricky part is we need to indent the same half on the other side. Alright, my finger did hit the sanding part a little bit, but again, the sander is not so... Hitting the sander is not so bad. I don't want to hit this with my finger. That's bad news. I've already had a bad enough day at work. I don't need to have it anymore. I don't need to add any more to it. 2026 is starting out a little rough. I'm recording this. It's right now Friday the 2nd as I'm recording this, so it's going out on Tuesday, but spent the better part of my day up in an attic, putting in a firewall in an unfinished attic that has about a foot or more of blown-in insulation up top, sitting on top of the batten insulation, and it's just been bad news for the day. It's good to be home. Okay, so as you can imagine, if you curl up paper, paper has to end on a side. So you have one side that goes out a little further, and then it comes in. So that's all we were doing with that. So now let's try to straighten out some of these edges as best we can, because again, cylindrical tools don't leave very good edges on the side. So I just want to square off some of this stuff as best I can. I've had these hand tools now for like a year. I haven't really used them, and not gonna lie, I'm kind of liking it. So I think I'm gonna be using these guys more and more as I do this. I don't need to just work with a knife, although working with a knife is good. I think they're gonna get a little more regular use in my wood carving repertoire. Actually, off camera, I was doing some of the tassel stuff, and it was going considerably faster doing most of it with the knife and this than it was actually going with the Dremel. So I think there are places to use both tools at, and yeah. Okay, so that one's has a nice little start. Let's get you kind of in the same place. That goes down. All I do there is I give this thing a nice edge so this when this thing kind of carves in, it hits that point, and then you can pull off the excess. Again, I do that at work all the time if I'm doing doorknob stuff or whatnot. If I do like door latches and all that, you need to have a kind of nice, clean, crisp edge when carving something out. But yeah, again, wood carving stuff like this, I generally don't do that much, so there is still a little bit of experimenting going on for what feels good for me to do. I still like using a Dremel a lot, so I will still be using that probably as my primary kind of carving tool of note. But I am starting to see more and more use coming out of this to get those spots that really that guy can't do very well. Oh, let's see. What do I have? Do I have a little... Should have pre-planned this. I do want to have a little indent thing kind of aside. I don't want to go fully into that, but I would like to have at least a little bit of kind of a divot kind of in here. So let's go and give myself a little divoty thing. And this is going to be one of those let's not hit the fingers with. Now paint is going to go a long way on these guys, so I'm not super worried about getting all the detail stuff kind of in here. Now the goal is not to hit my hand here, but it's actually far enough. It looks like it might be right next to on the camera. It's actually far enough away, and I'm not putting that much forward pressure on this. This is a little engraving toolie that is not going to be really helpful at all. So that's awesome. One second, I have another case of this stuff somewhere. And if I don't, then I don't. I thought I had a case of this stuff somewhere. Yes, I do. Okay, there's my case. This has... There, we do have this guy. This guy I do need to be a little careful with my hands, because that could actually do some... This is like an arrowhead going straight in my hand. So, again, we used it on the rifle to get the... If you remember the rifle here, we used that to get the little point at the edge of the rifle in the front. And, yeah, we're gonna... Didn't hit my hand on that one, and I'm gonna hopefully not hit my hand on this one. Am I on camera? Yes. Again, my goal isn't to go deep. It's just to kind of get a little bit of a 3D form going in the end. And that's about it. So I'm actually using more of the side of this than it is kind of just pushing it in. That's really all we need. You probably can't see much on here, but it's just a little bit of something to kind of make it look right. And actually, I might just finish this one out. We're going to jump right on the books. I didn't realize we're 24 minutes in. I'm still working on scrolls. That wasn't part of the plan. Nope. I need you to hold. Well, you kind of get the idea of what's going on. I'm not sure how well these come out on camera, but in real life it has that little bit of a scrollish kind of look. You have the line in the middle where it kind of the paper would wrap around. It's a little bit indented on the sides, and there we go on that. So let's get to the fun part. Let's get to the books. Let's get to the books. So first thing is I want these to be about 1/4 inch thick. That's what they wind up being on there. And we're kind of actually just under 3/8 right now. So it's not going to be that much carving down to get to where we want to go. There will be some dust though, that's for true. And overall, this should be pretty straightforward how to make this look good. So my hope is this will actually go by pretty quick. Alright, let's get some of these, again, get some of the rough kind of little fuzzies off the edge that we got from actually cutting it. We don't need those on here, that's fine. Alright, smooth you out a little bit. Not that it's going to matter, because it's, although having a nice smooth surface will be good for putting the next one on top of. But there we go, we're down to, yeah, we're just over 1/4 inch. But I'd say we're kind of in that range. So if we want to have this, we're going to have the book binding on the back. So we just kind of round it off just a little bit. Let's see, we can even kind of bring that down just a little bit so you get that ridge right at the back end of the binding part. You know what I'm talking about. It exists. Look at any kind of old book. Okay, so we have, it's already kind of starting. You get the little round kind of binding at the back. We have that little ridge back there. It's looking all good. We need some pages in here. What's going to be the best way to do that? Let's see, is the best way to do that just getting, we're going to try just doing it this method first. It would be great if you're not listening to buzz for the next like half hour on camera. I always feel really bad with that. I'm seeing more views on this channel recently than I have in the past. And all you're listening to is like a bunch of angry bees going at it right now. And I feel really bad about that for anybody who's new to this. It's not necessarily my goal, is to have things sound like that, but it just kind of is for this particular project. But am I even on here? Yeah, this is actually surprisingly hard to get on camera nicely. let's see, going with the grain should make this a lot easier. Now, unfortunately, this is the smallest size of this that I have. So, that said, I'm working with pine right now. These are just boards that I have. So, the grain size isn't really conducive to doing super fine detail work. If you want to do, like I said, any kind of actual detail stuff, you're going to want something with a tighter grain, a smaller grain. This is not the most readily available for this particular type of carving. But if you're just starting out with carving, kind of like how I am, this is still relatively new for me. This is a good one to kind of start with. Again, all this stuff is going to be painted, so if something goes wrong, I can always fill it and then paint it afterwards. It'll be fine. And or kind of fill it, kind of carve it again, and we're going to paint over it anyway. But yeah, no, just because this is pine, that does make things a little awkward. That's really all I'm hoping we kind of capture what that looks like on camera. But it does kind of feel, it is feeling bookish. Then let's need to do it a couple more times. And once again, this one's going to help when we get to the painting side of things. That's what's going to make this sing in the end. So, yes, I'm modeling it right now, but this isn't where it's going to really get its good look. It's going to come into its own when we get to the painting side of things. And actually being a little lumpy, that's giving it, isn't really a bad thing, because that's just kind of like pages sticking out kind of dealy, and it is adding a little something to it to not be 100% smooth in here. Apologize for not tilting it towards you. Once again, I suppose I could have the camera facing the other direction, but I don't know why. It just feels, when I'm watching my own videos again in the end, it feels really awkward if ever I try to put the camera facing the other way. I don't know if it's, maybe it's like one of those things where you just feel awkward in a video game heading left from the start of a screen rather than right, or just, there's an uncanny feeling that it just doesn't feel right. Or what, but this feels kind of awkward when I turn the camera over the other direction. And I can't really place why, but it just kind of is. But that gets us one book. Just need to do that several more times. It only took a few minutes too, so that's good. Yeah, it's funny, I had all this time off like the last couple days, kind of around that whole New Year's time. I kind of felt like I was going to get so far ahead. I felt like I was doing videos every single day, and whoop, somehow I don't really feel like I got that far ahead of the game on this. Like I said, I'm recording this on a Friday, and this is going out on Tuesday. I was hoping to be a little further ahead than that, but is what it is. Alright, once again we're rounding off the binding on the back. Gonna give it a little bit of a ridge. And again, if that ridge doesn't look good, that one didn't come out that great. It's going to be hidden in the end anyway, so it doesn't really matter. There's more to make me feel good about myself that I can get it right than it is about actually, I don't know, getting it right. because you're really not going to see much of that little ridge in the back where it kind of hits the binding. And that said, on any of these given books, I can always see if there's a good-looking side and a bad-looking side, and we put the bad-looking side on the bottom and the good-looking side up top. And that's all we'd have to do on that. And if that's the case, the problem is solved. Gone. It is gone forever. And that's okay. Okay, I think I liked doing this, giving it just kind of a little bit of an edge. Give it a little bit of an edge. Coming down. That's it. This edge will be visible, so we do want to do this one nicely. All these other sides are 100% visible. If you haven't really seen anything on here, I really do kind of apologize. I'm trying to do what I can on my own stuff. If I put the camera for this kind of fine work a little more in front of me, then I can't see what I'm doing, and for this kind of fine work, that becomes a little awkward. So I know I have the camera kind of off to the side a little bit, and that might be causing some level of difficulty seeing stuff. I'm going to try a different method this time. Again, my thumb here is guiding this thing, so it's not really in the way of anything. Yeah, the thing is, if you have your thumb that close, make sure your grip here is really, really good. It's 99% of the time, nothing's going to kick, nothing's going to go wrong, but every once in a while, something catches, and it just wants to kick. And when it does, you want to have that good grip going on here. Otherwise, if something does kick, then it becomes real bad real fast. I had a finished book in here somewhere. Where did finished one go? You're there. Let's move you out of the way right now. Keep that guy safe. Just kind of using the very edge of this thing to kind of clear out the middle part. Get it into kind of a good starting point, and now we can finish off with this guy. Ooh, okay, that guy is sharp even through this stuff. So let's not finish with my finger behind it. That's bad news. Come on. Get out of there. You can do it. You can do it. Get out. Alright. we have book number 2. So we got a couple, we have 2 scrolls, we have 2 books. It took like 35 minutes plus the 5-minute intro. Brings us up to our 40 minutes. So for the sake of interest, let's go and take a look at what's going to be our final book of this whole thing. So I did 1.25 inches. So 1.25 inches is easy enough. Divide 1.25 inches by 2. That is, everyone knows that's going to be 5/8. So we bring that down to 5/8. That's going to be our middle. Come on, be nice to me. Now this one we don't really have to shrink down that much, which is kind of nice. Although what we could do is we do want the cover to kind of come down here. So let me just give a little bit of a visual for the cover. The cover's down there. We have our midpoint here. We have midpoint there. Why is that important? Because we want to have a little bit of that kind of going down here when we do it. Once again, it's really nice having a crisp, clean edge to kind of go off of on this. And actually, I don't think I need you to stick out that far. Again, my thumb is controlling things, so it's not going to get hit by the saw. No matter how close it looks like it's getting, the thumb is controlling it. Okay, so we just need our pages to be indent a little bit. Okay, so now we have open book. We have that down there. I should have actually. Let's give ourselves. So if I'm 5/8, let's give ourselves a 1/4 inch in on each. So that's going to be U to U. It's going to be U to U. Again, we have the spine. We want to kind of highlight the spine just a little bit. a little bit of that spine kind of going, so that's all good. And then we have our coup de grace of our pages being splayed out kind of down the middle here. Let's actually use you kind of down the middle. There we go. You can see it's already starting to get a little bit of that open book kind of look to it. One thing we're going to want is, as the pages go, they will shrink as they come down this direction. And with a little bit of luck here, this will get us feeling like we have an open book. Alright, same thing on the other side. Just get these pages kind of splayed out. So hopefully I didn't quite get as far as I wanted to get this session, but that seems to be par for the course. Again, I'm not sure how long things take to carve per se. I have a much better grasp of how long things take to do out of clay. So for me, trying to estimate times on these types of things is very, very difficult to do. But we are starting to get kind of that form of a book being kind of splayed open. I do think we want a little more of this down the middle. I can add a little bit of pages kind of on the side there. I'm trying to use the edge of the blade to do this. It's thinner than using the width of the full width of the blade itself. We do that and it gives us a little bit of something on the side. And there kind of we go. We have a book that can go on top of the pile. So we're effectively going to have a pile that's going to be yay tall with a book on top. And that's generally what we're going to have kind of going with this. So let's go, as usual, I'm going to put all the stuff together, and we're going to see how this all goes when said stuff goes together. So, 1 second. And we're going to go move some things down. You're going to go down there. You're going to go here. I'm going to be vacuuming all this stuff up in the end. Anyway, I have a vacuum cleaner located directly under this table that I'm working on. So, usually the second I turn the camera off, this stuff gets cleaned. I do not want to leave all of this stuff sitting in the house here, or sitting on the table for future stuff. But yeah, we're effectively going to have yay stack of books kind of up here. Let's maybe make sure we have the books kind of facing the same direction with the open guy on top. He's going to look a little better that way. And then ultimately we're going to have these two scrolls are going to be kind of hooked on the side down in here. But that's effectively what we have going on. It would be nice. These guys I could actually paint beforehand, so maybe next time if I want to do this like maybe a cleanup episode, I can finish off the rest of the tassels. I can put some paint on these guys. I can start doing some stuff with some of these. And then probably after that I'm going to start getting into more of the Astral Age stuff again. It would be nice to pick back up on the tops here, finish off the tops, start getting this in, start actually forming the planets or the whatever the celestial bodies are going to be. I'll have to take a look at what I'm... Again, there's stuff that's on the image on the side I can use for that, which are just spheres. You would think there's either like stars or other celestial bodies. But I could use things from the game itself. I could turn it to, like, say, there are 4 meteorites that come down. I could have meteorites circling around. I could have a number of things circling around there. So I'm going to see, again, how I can take the concept art from here and apply it to what I know from the game and kind of make my own thing as we go and do this, which is kind of becoming a thing on this whole project, is just start with the base that we have on the side and then kind of make it my own as we go on to each individual detail we have. But no, overall it's not bad. We have our stack of books, we got the scroll, we're getting this stuff going, so we are getting there. We are in fact getting there. Paint is going to be awesome when we can finally start seeing one element from another. That's going to be super cool when we get to that, but that's going to be a future session sometime down the line. I'm not sure when, unfortunately, but we will get to it when we get to it. But this is where we are now, and until we get to that point, and until next time, enjoy.